I mean, what exactly is your brain doing when you're lying there drooling on your pillow? Well, here's what we do know. We know that the body does repairs while you're sleeping, which might be one of the reasons we seem to crave more bed rest when we're feeling a little ill. And we know that your brain isn't completely inactive when you're sleeping because, well, you spend a good chunk of the night dreaming, which appears to be the brain's way of cleaning up your hard drive. It takes new memories from the day you just experienced, and it finds a place to store them in your long-term memory. And then it works on cleaning up the neural connections that you no longer need. So you might think of it as defragging your hard drive. And the stuff you can learn from dreaming? Well, that's absolutely fascinating. I mean, have you ever wondered why it is when you're fast asleep, you'll suddenly remember things from your childhood that you haven't remembered in years? And it'll be all mixed in with stuff that happened today or this past week. It's almost like your brain is taking all that stuff from right now and it's looking for a place to store it, some kind of hook to hang it on. And that hook might be a very old childhood memory. You know, when they study your brain waves as you're dreaming, at some points, it almost looks like you're wide awake. I mean, it looks like a big chaotic mess of signals, neurons firing all over the place, everywhere in your brain. And if your brain wasn't wired to paralyze you while you're dreaming, you'd probably act out your dreams and really hurt yourself. You'd be getting up and moving around in the dark, smashing into things, walking off ledges, trying to fly, or whatever else it is you happen to be dreaming about. That's what happens during rapid eye movement, when your brain is highly active and it produces measurable brain waves. And this goes on about every 90 minutes while you're sleeping. But there's another part of sleep, and I don't want to freak you out too much, but there's another part of sleep when you're almost not there at all. They call it NREM, or non-rapid eye movement. And this is what's going on in your brain between dreams, mostly during the first hours of the night. Non-rapid eye movement is this moment in your brain when you are absolutely unconscious. You are receiving no outside stimuli. And how it happens is really pretty weird. Right behind your forehead, right here at the top of your face, just below where your hair used to be when you were 20, your brain starts sending out deep, slow waves of information, and it radiates from the front all the way back through your brain. But it doesn't go equally in every direction. It travels from the front of your brain to the back, kind of like having a tiny little speaker mounted at the front of your skull that's pointed directly backwards. And when these slow, deep waves begin to pulse, well, the weirdest thing happens. Usually, the various parts of your brain are firing off at the same time, creating what looks like chaos, because all the various information centers of your mind are just doing their own thing, almost independent of each other. But when this deep, non-rapid eye movement happens, it's like all the cells in your brain hear the music from that tiny speaker at the front, they all stop what they're doing, and they all fall in line and join the pulsations from the front. Kind of like billions of little obedient cult members chanting together. It's almost like a bad science fiction movie from the 1950s where a bunch of body snatchers have taken over the brains of Earthlings, and when the mothership sends out an eerie noise, everybody stops what they're doing, they all face in the same direction and begin chanting the same note. And what appears to be happening is that the brain cells, the neurons, they're all firing off in slow, steady unison. And the brain appears to be connecting the various regions of the brain and harmonizing them. And from what I understand, this is when you're actually storing your memories and cleaning them up. All the parts of the brain start talking to each other and cooperating. And then when that's finished, you start dreaming again. So from what I can tell, sleep is pretty important for your mental well-being. And maybe this is why we have so much trouble focusing, connecting the dots when we're sleep deprived. And maybe it's why we have trouble performing delicate tasks or giving a speech or forming coherent sentences when we haven't slept in days. The brain just hasn't had a chance to clean itself up. But then, Suddenly, you get a good night's sleep. And now you're on top of the world and you can remember things and you have an easier time just living.